Namaskar friends, as you know, I've already made a playlist on SAFE, that is Scaled Agile Framework. But that was in Hindi. So those who don't understand Hindi can refer to this particular playlist. In this playlist, I'm going to explain the same things in English. So welcome and let's begin. What does SAFE stand for? So SAFE is an acronym which stands for Scaled Agile Framework. Okay, here this E does not stand for anything. E was just added as a marketing gimmick because they wanted to call it SAFE and not SAF. Okay, so to make it sound as SAFE, they just added E. And so you'll notice that its E is always written in lowercase. They never write it like an acronym. They never write it in capital letters. Okay. Now, what is Scaled Agile Framework? So essentially, as the name suggests, it is a scaled version of basic Agile. So what all are the differences? Let us see a bird-eyes view first and then we'll go into details. Basically, in basic Agile, you used to have something called a sprint. At the end of the sprint, you used to get an incremental product. On this, once again, you used to have another sprint. Again, an incremental product. And so on and so forth. You used to keep repeating it. So you used to iterate to get an iterative product, and the iteration was called a sprint. Okay. Now in SAFE world, first of all, you call sprint as iteration, and sprint is not the only iterative loop that you have. There are groups of iterations which are called as program increments, and groups of program increments which are called as large solution, and then group of large solutions is called as portfolio. So you're scaling it up. You're not bounded to one level. In basic Agile, you used to have only one team. In Scaled Agile, multiple teams can work together, and their iterations are bundled together in a program increment. Multiple program increments are bundled together as a large solution. Multiple large solutions are bundled together as a portfolio. So let us try to visualize this. In SAFE, let us say that I have team 1, team 2 and team 3. So all of them will have iteration 1 at the same time. This is iteration 1, iteration 1. Notice that I am not saying sprint 1. You use the word iteration instead of sprint in SAFE. Okay. Now, all of these teams will work on their individual branches, and on their individual branch, they'll get this iterative product. Okay. So this is the product. This is the product. At the end of the iteration, they will be merging these branches onto one common branch, or you can call it iteration level branch or PI level branch, whatever you want to call it, and you will get this product. Okay, on that common branch, it will have the stories of this team as well as this team. Okay, everybody's work will be merged together on one branch. Let us call it the PI level branch. Then after iteration 1, iteration 2 will begin. Okay, so once again they'll work on their individual branches, but now on this branch it won't be this product that they'll work on. They'll work upon this product. So they'll down merge this PI level branch onto their team level branch and then start working on it. Okay, same thing this team will also do. They will merge the PI level branch on their team level branch and start iteration 2. This team will also do the same and start iteration number 2. So you will notice that all of these teams start their iterations at the same time, end their iterations at the same time, then again start the next iteration at the same time. So they work in cadence. Cadence means beat. Just like in music, people usually dance on rhythm. Dick check, dick check, dick. They'll dance on a rhythm, right? So that rhythm or that beat is called as cadence. We always develop in cadence. Okay, so they are developing, all the teams in an art, that means Agile Release Train, develop in synchronization, that means in rhythm, under beat, and that is called as cadence. They develop in cadence. Okay, so you might ask, Amit, how many iterations are going to be there? So let us see. Every iteration is of 2 weeks here. In basic Agile, you used to have 2 to 4 weeks long sprint, but iterations are always of 2 weeks. Okay, so first 2 weeks, first iteration, everyone is working on first iteration. Second week, everyone is working on second iteration. Third week, everyone is working on third iteration for 2 weeks. Then once again, next 2 weeks, everyone is working on iteration 4. Okay, so until now 4 weeks have happened. So this duration is called as development duration. You develop during this time. Okay, and the next 2 weeks is called as IP iteration. All the teams will be into IP iteration together, and during this IP iteration you do not deliver any value, you do not deliver any story, you don't deliver any work which will add to the value of the product. No, you don't do it. Instead, you retrospect about your product. You try to innovate your ways of development, your ways of process, your definition of done, your development guidelines. This is a time for you to look back upon your own work and see where it requires improvement. Okay, so that is why this is called as innovation and planning. Okay, so you try to innovate your ways, and then you plan for what? You plan for the next PI. Now what is PI, by the way? A collection of all these iterations together is called as PI, means program increment. Okay, so when you say planning, okay, innovation and planning, so planning is actually planning for the next PI, that means next program increment. So in a way you can say that there is one iteration and a collection of iterations is called as a PI. And just like an iteration is a loop, even a PI is a loop. At the end of it, you'll get a product. And once again, you'll perform another PI on that product. Okay, so you have scaled the basic Agile. And that's why this is called as Scaled Agile Framework. Okay, now let us look into nuances. Okay, first of all, I told you that all of these teams will be working on different branches, and all of these branches will get merged into one PI level branch at the end of every iteration. That means at the end of every 2 weeks, they will merge this code onto a PI level branch. So on this product, they will be having something called as system demo. Okay, they'll be demoing on the PI level branch. Okay, similarly, every iteration will also have an iteration demo. So this team is going to have an iteration demo on this particular product at the end of the iteration. This team is also going to have an iteration demo. This team is also going to have an iteration demo. Now you might ask, how many demos are there? Well, this is the beauty of Agile. If you have multiple demos, then you can be very sure that you are on the same page as the customer, and you can take a lot of feedback. So that's a very good thing. And in Scaled Agile, we are having demo at every single step. At the team level, you have iteration demo. By the way, this is of 1 hour. Then at the end of the iteration, there will be another system demo on merged code. Everybody's code will be merged, and there once again you have a system demo. This is also of 1 hour. And then during innovation and planning iteration, you're again going to have an INA meeting of half a day. In that INA meeting, the first thing that you do for first 1 hour is PI system demo. So I'm writing it over here, PI system demo. Okay, and this PI system demo is also of 1 hour. So then you might ask, Amit, Here, let us say that this team had committed to 8 stories, okay, and a total of, let us say, 20 story points. So to demonstrate 20 story points, you took 1 hour. Likewise, let us say this team has also committed to 20 story points. Here also you took 1 hour. This team has also committed to 20 story points. You took 1 hour to demonstrate. Now 20 story points plus 20 story points plus 20 story points is 60 story points. Now while giving a system demo, if you are going to demonstrate 60 story points, then shouldn't this take 3 hours to demo? Well, your math is correct, but this is not the way we do it, because the focus is different in every demo. In this demo, the team will demonstrate each and every story that this team has committed to and it has delivered. Okay, so here all the stories will be demoed in detail, whereas in system demo, mainly the integration of all these stories will be demonstrated. They won't be going into nuances, they won't be demonstrating every story in detail, no. They will mainly speak about those stories which are interlinked and whether the end-to-end flow is working fine. Okay, and system demo is not like testing. Any kind of demo is only to demonstrate the system. It is not to test every single condition. That is done during testing. QA people will do it. During demonstrations, you will only be showcasing the system. You won't be running every single test for it, right? So every demo is of 1 hour. This is also of 1 hour. This is also of 1 hour. Now what will you do at the PI level? So at the PI level, you don't speak in terms of stories, you speak in terms of features. In fact, in one PI, the team or your art means, here it is called as Agile team, Agile team, Agile team. But when all these teams come together in a PI level, then all of these teams together are called as Agile Release Train. That means art. So PI team is called as art. In addition to these 3 teams, art also has a couple of more roles, like in place of Scrum Masters, there's an RTE at PI level. In place of product owners, at the PI level, you have program manager and business owner. And in place of development teams, there is a system architect at the PI level. He is also called a system engineer. Some people call him system engineer. So the members of these 3 teams, along with RTE, program manager, business owner, and your system engineer, all of them are together called as PI team, right? But PI team is not a very good word. So PI level team is called as Agile Release Train. Okay. In short, it is art. Agile Release Train. Okay. So it is a collection of all the members in these teams, along with all the PI level roles like RTE, PM, means product manager, business owner, and your system architect, also called as system engineer. All of these people together means the PI level team is called as art. That means Agile Release Train. Okay. Now, at the end of the PI, means during the IP iteration, there is one more thing that is done, and that is called as PI system demo. This is also of 1 hour. So here we don't talk about stories, we talk about features, because in every PI, the art commits to completing some features. Every feature is a collection of multiple stories. So they normally commit to, let us say, 10 features. Okay, but it will differ depending upon how big your art is. Let us say your art consists of 15 teams, then it might commit for, let us say, more than 10 features. But if it consists of only 3 teams, then it might commit to only 1 or 2 features. Okay, but it depends completely upon the size of your art. But normally the art size is 15 teams. Okay, normally it consists of 120 to 150 people. Okay, so considering that, you can say that there are like 15 teams, because every single team, what is the size of every team? Every team is 8 plus minus 3 people. That means 5 to 11 people. Okay, So let us say there are 10 people in every team. So 150 divided by 10 is like 15 teams. So every art, that is why I'm saying that every art normally consists of 15 teams. Okay, simple mathematics. But it can differ, all these dynamics can differ depending upon your team. We are flexible in that, but recommended is 120 people per art or 12 to 15 teams per art. Okay, and every team will be having 8 plus minus 3 people. Okay, means 5 to 11 people in every team. By the way, teams are called as agile teams in art or in SAFe. You don't call it as team, you call it as agile team 1, agile team 2, agile team 3. Okay, we'll get to those nuances later, but let me give you the big picture here. So you understood about the demos. So these all are the demos. At the end of every iteration, you're going to have a system demo. Okay, so let me write it down here. System demo, here also system demo, and here also there's a system demo. And in the IP iteration, there's going to be a PI system demo. The word is the same, system demo, but at the PI level, everyone in the art, again here also everyone in the art is present for these demos. Here also everyone in the art will be present for this demo. And all of these demos will be of 1 hour each. Okay, now let us come to retrospectives. So when all are the retrospectives done? So at every iteration you have an iteration level retrospective done in every iteration. Okay, it is specific to the team, only the team members will be attending it. Okay, at the end of every iteration, when you merge it, here you don't perform any retrospective. Okay, but at the end of the PI, that means in the IP iteration, there is one ceremony. Again, it is inspect and adapt meeting, in which the first thing is PI system demo, the second thing is PI retro. Okay, and by the way, the third thing is problem solving workshop. So first thing in inspect and adapt meeting is this 1 hour demo, PI system demo. Then for half an hour there is this retro, PI level retro, and then for 2 hours they have problem solving workshop. We'll come to that later. Now, what is the time duration for iteration level retro? Again, it is half an hour. Here also half an hour. Then you might once again ask that, Amit, why shouldn't this be more than half an hour? Why don't you think so? So I'll explain it to you. See, here we retrospect how the team is performing. We retrospect how our steps are, how our processes are. Do we need any reforms at the team level? Okay, likewise over here at the art level, we will see how is our art performing, how is our agile release train performing. Okay, so stuff is the same, right? You're just extrapolating it to PI level. There's no difference actually. Okay, so that is why it does get performed within half an hour. It does get completed within half an hour. Again, the questions asked are exactly the same. What did we do well this time? What did we not do well this time? And what can be done better the next time? The same 3 columns. In every retrospective, you'll be asked exactly the same questions. What did we do well? What we didn't do well? What can be done better the next time? Okay. Now, let us come to ceremonies being conducted at the PI level. That means program increment level. Okay. So 2 ceremonies I have explained to you. One is demo, another is retrospective. Okay, so demo, retrospective. Okay, now likewise in every iteration there is a daily stand-up meeting. Now in basic agile you used to call it as DSM, that is daily stand-up meeting, but in SAFe you call it as DSU, that is daily stand-up. Okay, it's one the same thing, same kind of meeting. You're going to ask the same questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you planning to do today? And are there any impediments that you're facing? Impediment means, is there any blocker that you're facing? Then the rest of the team can guide you, or maybe try to work upon that impediment just to set you free. So that the same 3 questions are asked in DSU as well, but they just call the meeting as DSU and they don't call it as DSM as you used to call in the basic Agile. Okay, now at the beginning of the iteration there is iteration planning meeting. Okay, just like in basic Agile you used to have sprint planning meeting, here we have iteration planning meeting at the start of every iteration. Likewise, at the PI level also, as I've said, it's innovation and planning. So planning means planning for this PI. So in this IP iteration only, you have one more thing which is called as PI planning meeting. And this meeting takes 2 days. It's a 2 days long meeting. This INA meeting is a half day meeting. Okay, so big meetings happen at the PI level. Okay, and the entire art is present. So if the art consists of 120 to 150 people, then a sufficiently big conference room has to be booked. If the teams are separated geographically, then all of them will have to communicate using, let us say, GeoMeet or Google. I don't know what is the teleconferencing app for Google, but you know, in India we have GeoMeet, which is a fantastic platform for synchronizing the teams which are distributed across the geographies. Okay, so you need to have that kind of a technology. 150 people together, art. So all these meetings, inspect and adapt meeting or PI planning meeting, all of them are together. Okay, even the tools have to be there in place. Like for example, if you want to take a vote, confidence vote, then there should be a software tool available where everyone can vote. You cannot keep counting the hands, because you cannot keep counting 150 hands. You will obviously make a mistake over there. Okay, and it will take a long amount of time. So instead of that, software tools are available that you can use. Okay, now let us not digress and come back to events. So I was saying that just like there is DSU, just like there is planning, here also you do PI planning. Okay, we'll come to this meeting in detail. We'll see this entire IP iteration in detail in the next video. Okay, but let me just give you the bigger picture this time. Then DSU, just like there is a DSU, that is daily stand-up meeting in every iteration, it is conducted once a day. Just like that, at the PI level also there is one synchronization meeting which is called as Art Sync. Art Sync. Okay, now Art Sync meeting basically consists of 2 parts. One is SOS and another is PO Sync. Okay, now what are these? We'll come to that later. Okay, but I will give a brief idea that at every team level you have Scrum Master, one Scrum Master per team, right? And there is one product owner per team, right? Now at the art level, all the Scrum Masters of all the teams in the art are facilitated by another bigger Scrum Master, and he is called as Release Train Engineer. Okay, similarly all the product owners in these individual teams in an art are facilitated by a bigger product owner, which is called as product manager, and product manager is guided by business owner. Okay, so these are a couple of roles at the art level. Okay, now SOS meeting is basically called upon by RTE, which is the bigger Scrum Master at the PI level, right? So he calls it upon, and who are invited in this meeting? All the Scrum Masters of all these teams. So Scrum Masters come together in SOS meeting. Okay, and likewise product owners are synchronized in PO Sync meeting. This meeting is called upon by product manager, or it can also be called upon by Release Train Engineer, means the bigger Scrum Master at the art or PI level, right, is called RTE. So RTE has this additional right that he can call upon a PO Sync meeting as well. Actually, it is not under his jurisdiction directly, but still RTE manages all the activities being performed at the art level, that means at the PI level. And so RTE has this special power that he can also call upon the PO sync meeting. This can be a good interview question, by the way. Now, in both these meetings, you are asked exactly the same questions that you ask at DSU, because this is an extrapolation. This art sync as a whole is an extrapolation of DSU meeting. Just like at iteration level you have DSU, at the PI level you have art sync. Okay, and art sync means a combination of these two meetings. Either you can have them together in one meeting, call the Scrum Masters as well as POs, that's also okay. Otherwise you can have it separately. Okay, so that is also okay. If you do have it separately, then you call it as SOS meeting and PO sync meeting. Both these meetings will be performed for half an hour. This is performed for 15 minutes. This is performed for half an hour. Okay, and let us say that what do we discuss in this? So here Scrum Masters will discuss that, let us say that this team is working on a particular story in this iteration, and team 2 has another story in this iteration, and this story depends upon this story. Okay, so they will be discussing that, have you completed this story, because I'm going to require it for my team in the next iteration. So they might discuss about dependent stories. Okay, another thing that they might discuss about is, let us say that while performing this dependency story, let us say that the development team in team 1 comes to know that, see, there is a blocker, there is a technical blocker, we just cannot achieve it. So let us say that they say that, see, it is not achievable, man, we cannot do it. So he will have, the Scrum Master of this team will be explaining it to the rest of the Scrum Masters in SOS meeting that, see, this is not technically possible. So we might have to leave some portion of the acceptance criteria, and if that happens, then it will definitely have an effect of this dependent story that team 2 is going to perform. So it will also have to skip a certain amount of acceptance criteria. So are we ready to do it? Are we really going to do it? This and that. So this kind of discussions can be done in SOS meeting. Likewise, you will expect that similar kind of discussions will happen in PO sync meeting also, because see, if the acceptance criteria has to be reduced, or the stories have to be split, or let us say that this story cannot be performed, so let us pull another story. If this kind of things happen, then product owners are involved into this, and product owners should also be synchronizing with each other at least once a week, and that is why we have PO sync meeting. So once a week you have art sync meeting, which is a combination of these two meetings. Okay, so once a week you will always see a synchronization of Scrum Masters and synchronization of product owners. Okay, it is just like your DSU. DSU happens every day, this happens every week. Okay, so obviously what are the questions that are going to be asked? The questions asked in SOS or PO sync meeting are these: what did you do the last week? Just like in DSU you ask, what did you do yesterday? Here you ask, what did you do last week? Then in DSU you ask, what are you planning to do today? In Art Sync you ask, what is your team trying to achieve in this week? Then in DSU you ask the third question, are there any impediments? In Art Sync also you will ask, is your team facing any impediments? Okay, so these three questions are only copy paste questions. Just extrapolate them from 1 day frequency to 1 week frequency. Instead of saying what did you do yesterday, say last week. Instead of saying what did you do today, say this week. Okay, and instead of saying that are you facing an impediment, say that is your team facing any impediment. Okay, and the fourth question that you need to ask is, are there any dependencies? Let's clarify about the dependencies. Like I said, here there is a dependency, and here there's a dependent story on it. Okay, so dependency and dependent stories have to be synchronized, or you need to work out that, okay, are we going to complete it properly, are we not? If there's any scope that needs to be changed, then this will be discussed. So about dependencies, discussion about dependencies is the fourth point. So these four questions are asked in SOS and PO sync meeting. Okay, so I guess I've covered all the events except one event, by the way. At iteration level, every week you meet for iteration backlog refinement. It is the same as sprint backlog refinement in basic agile. Okay. Now, iteration backlog refinement, during this meeting what happens, the PO will explain the stories that we might cover in the next iteration. Developers and QAs will ask doubts, clarify those doubts from the PO. If the doubts cannot be cleared, then again PO has an opportunity to ask them to product manager. If product manager is also not clear, he'll ask to the business owner. Okay, and even this thing can be synchronized over here. He can say that, see, I got this kind of a confirmation from the higher management. Okay, he can say that. So he can make use of PO sync meeting also for letting rest of the teams know that, see, I have taken this clarification, it's going to happen this way. Okay, just so that everyone is on the same page. Now, in iteration backlog refinement, first of all, what happened? PO explained the upcoming stories, means the stories which may be picked or may be committed to in the next iteration. Then he clarified the doubts, and then finally he will refine the backlog. That means he will see that is the acceptance criteria correctly written. Developers and QA can suggest that you need a change in this particular acceptance criteria, and he will make that change. If any confirmations are to be required, then he will take the confirmations. Okay, and at the end of it, you will also estimate those stories. Who estimates the stories? Scrum Master? No. Product owner? No. It's the team which estimates the stories. Okay, so iteration backlog refinement, the team refines the backlog, means the acceptance criteria, and estimates for the stories. Who refines the backlog, by the way? Not the team, product owner. After consulting with the team, that is okay, but who is the owner of it? Owner of backlog is always the product owner. I am saying all these things because they can be interview questions and they can also be asked in your exam. Okay, so I am purposely stressing on those points. Many people get confused over there, so I am saying who commits to the stories? Your team. Who refines the backlog? Your product owner. Who estimates the stories? Your team. Okay, remember these things. And Scrum Master, by the way, does nothing. Scrum Master only facilitates. And by the way, you should be more interested in knowing what you should not do, because I've seen many Scrum Masters, they fiddle in the nice smoothly working team for no reason. Okay, and they make life miserable for the team. Don't do that. You just step back, assist when the assistance is required. Okay, assist when the team is going wrong, but don't spoon feed them. Okay, see, it is often said in politics that less governance is good governance. Especially in capitalism, it is said that let the country grow itself. Don't, interfere in each and everything. Okay, so, and capitalism is the best policy, best way of governance. The reason is this only, that governance is minimal and people grow themselves. People have rights, liberty, they grow themselves. So likewise, in your team also, you don't try to govern each and everything. Try to facilitate. Government is like an operating system. It does not do everything. It just creates an environment so that other programs can work. Right? Just like that, a Scrum Master should just be a facilitator. He should create an environment where team members can flourish. They can become problem solvers. Another good question, by the way. Should the Scrum Master solve the problems of the team? No, he should never. He should encourage the team to solve their own problems. You should never solve their problems. Again, another interview question. Should you estimate on behalf of the team? Many Scrum Masters do this, but this is a very bad practice. You should never estimate. Neither should a team lead estimate on behalf of the team. No. Neither should the architect estimate instead of the team. No. Team estimates. Every single time, team will estimate. Nobody else should estimate on behalf of the team. Okay? But we often see this bad practice. Many people do it, that one intelligent guy will be picked up, especially from development, and he'll be asked to estimate on behalf of the entire team. That's a very bad practice. And if you're asked in an interview, always say that no, we should not do it. Although we might do it in our project, we do it, but that's a bad practice, and I know it at least. Okay, so be very clear about that. This can be a good interview question. You can also be asked the same question during this exam, Safe Scrum Master exam. Okay, now this is one event. After that, there is iteration planning. So during the iteration planning, what happens? The team commits to the stories that the team is going to deliver during the next iteration. So this, at the starting of every iteration, you're going to have an iteration planning. So at the starting of this iteration, you're going to have an iteration planning. Here also you're going to have iteration planning. If you remember, I told you during the PI planning, we commit to the features that we are going to deliver in this PI. Every feature is a collection of stories. So those features are already divided into stories. So here in the iteration planning, we commit to stories. We do not say that I commit to this feature. You say I commit to these stories in this particular iteration. Likewise, in the next iteration, you might say, okay, now the next few stories I'm committing to. Automatically, the features will get implemented. Okay, but you never commit. As a team, you never commit to features. You always commit to stories. But at the art level, you never commit to stories. You always commit to features. Okay, understand this. We are just seeing the difference at different level. So at team level, you commit to stories. At the PI level, that means at the art level, you commit to features. Okay, so remember these nuances. All these nuances will help you in cracking this exam. Even in the interview, you might be asked these questions. So in the next video, we are going to see the IP iteration in detail. So in IP iteration, there are 2 weeks. Okay, so I will explain you what you do during these 10 days. 2 weeks means 10 working days per week, means per week there are 5 working days. So for 2 weeks there are 10 working days. So what do you do in these 10 working days? We will see in the next video. I'll just introduce you to preparing for the PI planning. So preparing for the PI planning. Then there is inspect and adapt meeting, and then there is PI planning meeting. In between there is pre-PI planning and post-PI planning. Okay, it is on either side of this PI planning meeting. So we'll just discuss about it in details. We'll see in subsequent videos, but a brief overview of IP iteration I'll give in the next lecture. So until next time, this is Amit signing off. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.